Joining me today is one of Rego's senior technical consultants, Davey Zywick. So I hear that you had a hand in developing this report bursting. What started it?
It really started from business objects, that migration from business objects to Jaspersoft. One of the functionalities that business objects offered was report bursting. And when it went away, a lot of our clients felt they missed it. So we wanted to create report bursting inside of CAPPM for Jaspersoft.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited for your demo. Take it away.
Oh. All right. So let's start with why we need report bursting. Report bursting really solves these I want tos. So the first I want to is I want to send a report to a dynamic distribution list. Meaning maybe I want to send all of my report to my vendors with all of the hours that their contractors have used. But maybe I'm adding new vendors as well. Maybe I add a vendor A and a vendor B onto that list. Currently with Jaspersoft, you'd have to reschedule a new report for that vendor A and that vendor B. But with report bursting, we shouldn't need to do that. That distribution list should be dynamic. So what we can do is we can create a area in our report bursting solution that automatically picks up all the vendors that are in our system and sends the report to them, and specifically for the list they're looking for. Which brings us into our second I want to. I want to send a report that's very data set specific, meaning I don't want to send a vendor all of the reports, all of the data that's for another vendor and their vendor, and they have to go to page 3 to see it. I just want to send it specifically to theirs. And I want to do that automatically in the exact same schedule. That's what this report bursting is going to allow. It's going to allow us to do these two things. It's going to solve them for us. It also allows us to do the normal scheduling of reports, but utilizing CAPPM groups. So let's get into what exactly is report bursting for the people that don't use it currently. So report bursting is a combination of 3 processes, but it's automated. So the first one is the schedule. So we need to be able to schedule a report to run in a set pattern of time, maybe monthly, maybe daily, and then we wanted to make sure that it's unique. Maybe it looks at going by the start of the fiscal month or the end of the fiscal month. The next thing, once we have our schedule, is we need to actually create and run that report. So that's what the publisher is going to do. We need to create our report, and it needs to be dynamic, meaning if I add another project manager into my list, my report needs to automatically know that there's another project manager in that list. And third, it needs to distribute these reports to our users. So we need to be able to send a report to a group of users or to a single user that could be updated dynamically at any point without adjusting our settings for our schedule. So report bursting combines all of this. In one module, you should be able to set up everything right here and send it off to your users. So let's get into what Rego's report bursting solution is. We wanted to make a solution that's inside of CAPPM. We didn't want you to have to go anywhere else. We wanted to make sure that you had scheduling options that are out of the box, as well as some that aren't out of the box, that are very custom to CAPPM, such as the start of the fiscal month. Then we wanted to make sure that you had dynamic parameters. This is something you don't see in Jaspersoft and that business objects allowed. So in business objects, you were able to put in a SQL query, and it would bring a list of values that you could send into a parameter. Jaspersoft doesn't allow this, but we're actually creating this with our report bursting solution. And the third thing is we wanted to be able to email based on the parameter. Maybe we have a project manager parameter and we want to send a report to that project manager specifically. A group in CAPPM, so our security groups are often used for communication. So we wanted to make sure that you could email that security group with a report, or the basic static field where you just put in the email of a user. So enough about the way we want to do it. Let's actually show you how it's being done. So I'm going to navigate and share my screen, CAPPM. So if I want to get to our report bursting module, it's directly in Clarity. It's a custom object. So I navigate to the home ribbon, and I can see report bursting as a column here, and I can see a report bursting list. Now this list, every record in this list is a report burst, meaning I have a report bursting solution for resource utilization, and I have one for our webinar. This is the best report burst webinar. Each of these is sending out a separate report. So I'm going to select this is the best report burst webinar. I'm going to change this up and say this is the greatest report burst webinar. And this name doesn't indicate anything to the users. It only is for our record, meaning I want to know what this record in the report burst list is doing. So if this was a report utilization report, I would know, hey, this is being ran for this report. Or maybe I know this is sending all of the vendor reports to my vendor. And that name is just to give you a description of what's happening. Our next field is the report path. So you can see it says /RB/RB _ This is found on the report properties in the repository. If you were to go there, you would see report path as the very first item there. We just copy that and paste that here to select the report that we're going to be running for. The next is going to be that recurrence type. If I select this, you can see all of our options. The very first one is that every week, pretty common. We can see we have daily, we can see we have and run once. But then we have a few unique ones. We have the start of the fiscal month. So what we decided is everyone, for the most part, uses fiscal months on the entity, and they usually only have one entity. So why not bring that into our recurrence type? Now we'll be able to send our reports basic on the first of the month, fiscal month. So I could say, hey, I don't want to send it on July 1st. I need to send it on July 5th. And it's going to find that value based on your entity's fiscal months. We also have the day of the month. So the day of the month is based on our start date, and our date is 6/10/2018. So every 10th on the month, it's going to send. So today is July 10th. Luckily for us, it's supposed to send today. It'll send on August 10th, September 10th, and continue on. Another few are the every first in a month. So if I select every first, and it's 6/10, it's actually not looking at 6/10, it's looking at the day of the week, which is a Sunday here. So every first Sunday in the month, this is going to send. And we could say every second Sunday, every third Sunday, every fourth Sunday in the month. Now, our dates here are reflecting on when it starts and what day it wants to start. So if I said every week, it would start on Sunday of every week. It would send out on the Sunday at 1 p.m. 45. Now, this setting is based off your server configuration. So talk to your system administrator for more information on that. Now, we have a few export types and more are incoming as we iteratively improve upon this. But we have HTML, PDF, Excel, and XLX. We'll be adding in PowerPoint to CSV very soon. Our file name, we're going to skip the report burst for just right now. The file name is what the user is going to receive from that file. So right now, they would receive projects.pdf. I could change this to be new webinar _ and they would receive new webinar _.pdf. Now, if I have this timestamp located right here, I would choose, it would be new webinar _ and then our timestamp of YYMMDDHHMM. So it would give us a time of what we're looking for. If I unselected this, we wouldn't see this timestamp get added. I'm going to skip the burst parameter email for right now, but I'm going to go through these email settings just so we know. The very first one is the groups. So the groups are representative of what we have in Clarity. So you can see I have my basic group for user access. I have a financial manager group. I have multiple security groups. So it represents the administrative security groups there. I can also have a static email list. So that could be David Zywick. I could put a comma in here for the next one. I have a subject for burst by email, and then I put my name. And then we have our body. Now, the body doesn't accept HTML, but it will take all the indents and returns that you put into this. So everything that you see here will be in this format. All right. So now let's get into, well, I have my report set up. Now I need to be able to send a parameter to my report, right? That's how we filter the values in there and get a unique report. The way that we do that in our report bursting solution is we navigate to the sub-object called burst reporting parameter list. And in here, you can see I set one up. It's called manager key. Now, the name of our record here needs to be the exact same, capitalization and all of the parameter on the report. And if you don't know what that is, just contact an administrator or report developer to find that out. Now, the parameter type is depicted on how we want to send the value. We can send it as a string, meaning maybe I just want to send in test, and that's the value that would be sent to that parameter. I could send in a date. So, hey, I want to send in the 11th or the 27th every time. I could send in a number, so a 5 million number for the ID, for example. I can use a static lookup. So, for example, I've selected Agile status here, and maybe based on this Agile status, I want to put in a 2. And then I want to make sure I put in a 1 as well. Now we are blocked and ready. It'll show me all those two values will get passed in as a parameter. I also have the ability to change my lookup at any point here and say, hey, let's look at our activity type. And now if I select my values, I can say, hey, I only want to see done or in progress and open. Those are the only two values that should be showing up. I can do this with a single select value as well. So you can see I have activity type, and I can only select done. But then the unique one, the one that I think really makes this, is our SQL statement. This is what really makes report bursting unique. So what we can do is we can make select a logical SQL expression for us that will produce a list of values that's going to be sent to this parameter. So for example, this select statement is actually getting us all the users that are in a group. So if we go to this group here, I'm going to look at our webinar group. It's going to pass all the values for Jessica and Wes. And the very first one that you see here, this csu.id, is the value that's being passed in. And then you can see the csu.email address. And we're going to get into what the email address and why it's the second column in a few moments here. But this is making a list of values. 2 values are coming back from this list based on our SQL. And it's using the regular database for this, the transactional database. Now, we could add multiple parameters in here, right? So sometimes we want to send that project storyboard, but we only want to see the projects that are active. So I would add a new parameter in here and put in the active parameter. And then I could add another one to say I only want to see risks that are high. You can add another parameter for that. You can have multiple here. Now I'm going to go to general. And back to this burst by. So you can see I have burst by is empty. If I run this right now, we're going to get a report that is actually just the report's name with no different values. I should just see the lists from Wes and Jessica and their projects. So let's see that. I'm actually going to run that for us. And you can see it finishes pretty quickly. We're going to let it run. We should receive it pretty soon here. There we go. So now you can see I got that email. You're going to see the report, the email body that I said with our indents. And if I double click on this, we can see Jessica's values. Wes doesn't have any. Now if we go into here, we can run our report. And maybe we want to add that burst by parameter. Now, if I add this burst by parameter, what's going to happen is it's going to create a report for each of the values that come in. So one report with all the projects for Jessica and one report for all the projects for Wes. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to add this burst by parameter email. So now instead of sending it to me, it's going to send to Jessica and it's going to send to Wes. So I'm expecting I'm going to see 3 of these come through. So let me run this one more time. Should finish this pretty quickly. There we go. Now that's ran. I'm going to see another one come up. I'm going to delete this. And we can see it sent 1 to Jessica and 1 to Wes, because it sends to both values. If we click on this, you can see the value for Wes and the value for Jessica. That's really what makes the report bursting solution great. Now my users don't have to see a list of everyone's reports. They can get specific data sets towards theirs without really having to make multiple schedules for that. And that's our report bursting solution right now. Please contact Rego Consulting if you're interested.